Hello and welcome to our live lesson with me, Mrs. Shanker Johnson, here to teach you guys some fantasy fiction. I can see that there are a few of you already here, and we are going to be trying something new. There is a feature available to live chat. So, if you are here and you're excited, go ahead and give me a comment and say hello. And once you have your, oh, this way. Once you have these materials, a writing utensil, a notebook, and potentially your Harry Potter books. I have book one and book two with me. And so please make sure that you have your supplies with you. And when you're ready with all your supplies, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or say got it in the chat. Awesome. Our teaching point for the day is right below here. You are, by the end of this meeting, going to be able to confidently describe the difference between fantasy fiction and realistic fiction. You will also be able to identify some of these fantastical elements that exist in Harry Potter's books 1 and 2. Wonderful. Give me a thumbs up if you have your books with you. Wonderful. If not, you can feel free to pause and run and go ahead and get this. We are now going to move forward. So if you take a look behind me, I have reminded us of our 6 fantasy motifs or elements. Say it with me. I'd love for you to repeat back. The first is magic. Second is other worlds. The third motif is good versus evil. The fourth is heroism. The fifth is special character types. And the last but not least is fantastical objects. Now, if we remember our very first lesson about fantasy fiction, we really had to think deeply about the differences between realistic fiction and fantasy fiction. Now, remember, realistic fiction is fake, right? Fiction means fake, but it's something that could happen in real life. Realistic fiction. It could happen in real life. Fantasy fiction plays by its own rules, just like we talked about these motifs right behind me. So today, now that we really have this solid understanding of fantasy fiction versus realistic fiction, we are going to start noticing and finding places where these motifs exist within our 2 books. By the end of the lesson, you are going to start to think about all the other things that are going on in these books and how they apply to the fantasy fiction genre. So the first one that I was thinking about, and I wanted to take book 1 because book 1 is where everybody is being introduced to this new world of Harry Potter. Okay? And so really when I was thinking about this, I thought of one of Harry's first moments of magic as a normal piece of the Harry Potter world. And so in chapter 6, I noticed, and you can follow along if you have your first book with me, on page 102 and 103. This is where Harry Potter gets to finally meet Hermione and Ron, and they end up buying chocolates. And so this idea of magic comes into play when he gets a chocolate frog with collecting cards. Well, in our world, I've seen chocolate frogs available at the grocery store. I know there are lots of different types of collecting cards, but what makes these things magic is that the chocolate frog has a spell on it and can move. And not only that, they come with collecting cards of different wizards. But this is also one of those unique moments where magic exists because a collecting card can happen in real life, but what makes it magic is that Dumbledore is actually using magic to be there on the card. And then on the top of page 103, they say, Harry turned the card back over and saw, to his astonishment, that Dumbledore's face had disappeared. He's gone. Well, you can't expect him to hang around all day, said Ron. He'll be back. No, I've got Morgana again, and I've got about 6 of her. So here, what you're noticing is that this type of normalcy within this Harry Potter fantasy world is apparent in how Ron responds to Harry when he says, oh my God, Dumbledore's off, not on my card anymore. So that is one example of how magic is existing in Harry Potter. And really, the next step is going even deeper and thinking about how these magical moments separate themselves from realistic fiction, right? And then really I was thinking, and with Harry Potter, there's an abundance of these motifs. But really I was thinking about good versus evil, okay? Good versus evil can be a little bit trickier. Oftentimes we think of good versus evil in this idea of a protagonist and an antagonist, okay? And really we know when we think of Harry Potter, we think good versus evil as Harry Potter and Voldemort, right? And this is like the larger theme of good versus evil that exists within the entire series of Harry Potter. And this is something that absolutely we will be discussing as we continue, as we begin the 3rd book in the series. But the 2nd book is especially unique because it really isn't, you're learning how complex the evil and the good can be. In this instance, I wanted to pull an example from the end of book 2. And so in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, in chapter 17, this is where good versus evil comes into play because you know what? Harry didn't realize that Tom Marvolo Riddle was the evil in this good versus evil. Initially, in this book, you have Tom Riddle communicating through his diary. And he's trying initially to trick Harry Potter in thinking that, you guessed it, Hagrid was the one that opened the Chamber of Secrets. But as we know, when you finish this, we realize at the very end on page 314 at the very top, he pulled Harry's wand from his pocket and began to trace it through the air, writing 3 shimmering words. Tom Marvolo Riddle. Then he waved the wand once and the letters of his name rearranged themselves. I am Lord Voldemort. And so really, I think that this is just one way that we can begin to think about how there are going to be multiple motifs, an abundant amount of fantastical motifs throughout these books. And we are going to be going very deep into considering how do these motifs drive the storyline, and what else can we learn by bringing up these fantastical motifs, and how can we understand this story on a deeper level. So on your own, and I'm keeping these lessons short and sweet, on your own, I'd like for you to consider, are you able to witness, tell me what in the text makes you say that from your books, is there another world there? Are there moments of heroism? Are there special character types? What fantastical objects are there? Okay, kiddos, that concludes our lesson for today. Don't forget the teaching point down below, and if you need to, rewatch this video so that you can feel more confident in our fantastical elements that exist in Harry Potter. Take care.